So today is our first lecture for chemistry. What chemistry really is. Chemistry deals with the structure and properties of matter, and this structure and properties of matter in turn depends upon the constituents, atoms and molecules. So chemistry can also be called as the study of atoms and molecules. So what matter really is? Matter is something which has mass and occupies some space. Now, matter is divided into three main categories. The categories being solids, liquids, and gases. So, what are the basic differences between these three categories? The first basic difference between these three categories is the interatomic or intermolecular distance. This distance is very less in case of solids, it is relatively larger in case of liquids, and it is even more in case of gases. So we can say in solids the atoms or molecules are very closely packed as compared to liquids, and in liquids it is closely packed as compared to solids. So we can say the distance in gas is more than distance in liquids is more than distance in solids. This was the first basic difference between these three categories. So the second difference is the degree of freedom. So what is degree of freedom? Degree of freedom means the movement of the constituent atoms or atom or molecule in the particular matter. So as in case of solid, this atom or molecule moves about its mean position very less. That is, we can assume it to be zero, the movement to be zero, though it moves, but it is the movement is very less, so we can assume it to be zero. In liquids this movement exists, but it exists to some extent only. And in gases, this movement of particles is very easy and it is very fast. So in gases, the randomness can be defined as the movement of particles. This randomness is the most. In liquids, it is less as compared to gases, and in solids, it is the least. Now, solids have definite shape and definite volume. Liquids have definite volume but no definite shape. That is, if you pour a liquid in a jar, it will take the form of a jar, and if you pour the liquid in a glass, it will take the shape of a glass. Gases have no definite volume and no definite shape. Now, solids exist at low temperature and high pressure. Liquids exist at intermediate temperature and pressure, and gases exist at high temperature and low pressure. See, this temperature and pressure is not absolutely defined. We cannot say that every solid will exist at a temperature of 100 degrees Celsius. They are just relative quantities. So now matter is divided into some more categories based on their chemical classifications. So if we look upon these categories, the two broad categories divided are pure substances and mixtures. So as we can guess by the name, pure substances have a fixed chemical composition. Fixed composition. Mixtures do not have a fixed composition, or we can say variable composition. Now, pure substances, because they have a fixed composition, they cannot be separated by physical methods. And mixtures can be separated by physical methods. Now, pure substances are again divided into two main categories. These categories are elements and compounds. We can see elements will consist of only one type of atoms, whereas compound will consist of two or more than two types of atoms. This compounds is again divided into two main categories, that those are covalent compounds and ionic compounds. We will study about more type of compounds in the later lectures. Now, mixtures is divided into two categories, one being homogeneous mixtures and other being heterogeneous mixtures. So homogeneous mixtures, they have a uniform composition throughout the throughout the matter. That is, if we take one part of that mixture, of that homogeneous mixture, and we measure its density, we will have the same density as we measure it for the other part. But in heterogeneous, this case is not valid. If we take one part of the mixture and we measure its density, it may or may not be equal to the other part. So this was the main differences and classification of matter.